3 million years ago, before the first human ever set foot in Europe, something else was already standing upright on this continent, and it wasn't related to us, not even close. It wasn't an ape. It wasn't some primitive proto-human crawling out of Africa. It was a monkey. A big, heavy, dog-faced monkey, walking on two legs across the same ancient grasslands that would one day belong to us. And here's the part that should genuinely unsettle you. Some of its bones are nearly impossible to tell apart from our own early ancestors. Same ankle mechanics, same weight-bearing adaptations, same hints of an arm built for far more than just climbing trees. Nature was running an experiment, a completely separate experiment, on a completely separate continent with a completely separate species. And it came terrifyingly close to working. This is the story of Paradolichopithecus, one of the strangest, most overlooked, and most unsettling stories in all of natural history, and almost nobody knows it exists. To understand just how extraordinary this animal was, you have to understand the world it was born into, because this was not the Europe you picture when you close your eyes. 5 million years ago, Eurasia was a different kind of place entirely. The Pliocene and early Pleistocene were arguably the most ruthless chapters in Earth's recent history. This continent was overrun with megafauna that make today's predators look tame. Giant short-faced hyenas that could crush bone with a single bite. Saber-toothed cats with canines the length of your hand. Early elephants, massive cave bears, a food chain so stacked and so vicious that simply existing required constant daily life or death problem solving. Every species alive during this period earned its place. There were no free passes, no safe corners. You either adapted or you disappeared. And it was here, in this brutal, beautiful, unforgiving world, that Paradolichopithecus carved out an existence that lasted 4 million years. For context, modern humans have only been around for roughly 300,000. This animal survived on the ground, in the open, surrounded by the most dangerous predators this planet has ever produced, for more than 10 times longer than we have existed. Let that sink in for a moment. So what exactly were we dealing with? Picture a baboon. Now make it bigger. Nearly 70 pounds, roughly the size of a large male dog. Give it a heavy dog-like face with a powerful jaw, and canines built for serious damage. Its arms were dense and unusually strong in ways that immediately separated it from other monkeys of comparable size. And then there was its range. Fossils have been found stretching from southern France and Greece all the way through Central Asia and possibly into China. That is not a local species quietly hiding in one corner of the world. That is a highly successful, wide-ranging animal that dominated an enormous stretch of a continent for millions of years. And yet, for decades after its discovery in the early 1900s, researchers barely gave it a second look. It was categorized, filed away, and largely forgotten. Just another big monkey for a strange era. Until somebody looked more closely at its ankle. The talus bone. One small piece of the skeleton. And it changed everything. When researchers compared it to other monkeys, it didn't match. When they held it next to ape bones, it didn't match. But when they placed it alongside the ankle bones of early hominids, our own upright walking ancestors, the similarities were deeply uncomfortably hard to ignore. The bone showed adaptations for the full range of motion the ankle needs to walk upright efficiently. Its fibula was bearing weight in ways that simply do not happen in animals that travel on all fours. These aren't accidental overlaps. These are structural changes that take millions of years of consistent evolutionary pressure to build. Millions of generations of standing up, walking across open terrain, foraging upright, watching the horizon for things that wanted to kill them. Nature, working through a completely unrelated lineage, arrived at a nearly identical solution. Now let's talk about the arms, because this is where the story gets genuinely uncomfortable. The humerus, the upper arm bone, had a distinctively deep groove where the bicep muscle attached and an unusually large rounded joint surface at the elbow. Both of these features point to an animal with powerful, highly mobile arms. Arms capable of more than locomotion. Arms capable of reaching, grabbing, holding, and throwing with real force and real precision. Pair that with an upright posture that regularly freed those arms while the animal was moving, and you start to see the picture that researchers were seeing. An animal that could carry things, that could hold things, that could potentially use things as weapons. We have no direct fossil evidence of tool use. That needs to be said clearly, but consider what we know about living primates far less anatomically suited to it. Macaques in Southeast Asia use stone tools to crack open shellfish. These behaviors get passed down within groups, generation after generation, as cultural knowledge. Baboons and vervet monkeys have been observed hurling rocks and branches at predators. That is, at its most basic level, weapon use. Paradolichopithecus had better arms than any of them. It had a more stable upright stance than any of them. And it lived in a world where figuring out how to stop a saber-toothed cat from closing the distance on you was a survival question it faced every single day. Wooden tools rot within years. Unmodified rocks leave no trace. The absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. This animal may have been picking up and weaponizing objects 3 million years ago, in the middle of Europe, and left almost nothing behind to prove it. But weaponry and anatomy only tell part of the story. What we really want to know is what it was actually like to be this animal. And the answer, based on everything we know about its world and its closest living relatives, is that every single day was a negotiation with death. Paradolichopithecus was a ground dweller in an era when the ground was the most dangerous place on the continent. It didn't have the luxury of retreating into the trees when things got bad. This was its domain, the open terrain, the tall grass, the exposed hillsides, and it had to own that space or lose it. Modern baboons give us the closest window we have into what that life probably looked like. Baboons live in highly structured, fiercely political social groups. Alliances shift. Dominance is constantly tested. And when a predator shows up, the response isn't panic and flight, it's coordinated, aggressive, and sometimes shockingly effective. There is documented footage of a single adult male baboon going toe-to-toe with a leopard and winning. Not escaping, literally winning. Now take that temperament, scale the animal up, give it a body built for upright movement and powerful arms, and drop it into a world where the predators are bigger and faster and hunting in larger groups than anything alive today. The clashes that must have played out across those ancient grasslands were unlike anything the modern world has ever seen. And Paradolichopithecus wasn't just surviving these encounters, it was thriving through them. A 4 million year run on the grounds in the open against the worst this planet had to offer is not luck. That is a species that figured something out. Something about group coordination, threat response, and raw physical presence that kept it not just alive, but dominant across an entire continent for an almost incomprehensible stretch of time. Whatever it was doing, it was working. Homo erectus, one of the first members of our own genus to leave Africa, was moving through Eurasia well over 2 million years ago. Paradolichopithecus was still alive, still walking, still competing, and still holding its ground in this same world. The geographic ranges overlap. The timelines overlap. These two species were almost certainly in the same places at the same times, looking at each other across the same clearings, competing for the same food, and responding to the same threats. Think about what that encounter would have actually looked like. Early humans, making stone tools, controlling fire, hunting in coordinated groups, coming face to face with a 70-pound bipedal monkey with dagger canines, powerful arms, and 4 million years of hard survival instincts baked into every bone in its body. Did they compete directly for territory and food? Did early humans hunt them the way modern humans hunt baboons in parts of Africa today? Did Paradolichopithecus retaliate? Did groups of both species faced with the saber-tooth ambush in the dark ever end up on the same side of a fire? We will most certainly never know the answers, but the encounters happened. Some version of that meeting, repeated across thousands of years and thousands of miles of shared continent, absolutely happened. And the fact that we have no stories, no cave paintings, no cultural memory of it at all, that's not because it wasn't significant. It's because only one side survived long enough to write anything down. Paradolichopithecus survived for 4 million years. It walked upright through ice ages, through predator shifts, through the slow grinding transformation of entire continents. It outlasted dozens of other species that shared its world, and then it disappeared. And the world moved on without a single legend about it. What's haunting about this animal isn't how alien it was, it's how familiar. Nature found a similar answer in a completely unrelated lineage, on a separate evolutionary path with no connection to our story whatsoever. Upright walking isn't a human invention, it's just a good idea, and when the conditions demand it, life figures it out. We tell the story of human evolution as if it were inevitable, as if we were always the destination. But Paradolichopithecus is proof that we were just one experiment among many. There were many other paths, other almost answers, other creatures that the universe tried, pushed hard, ran for millions of years, and then quietly erased. It never left legends, it never left paintings, it left a scattered handful of bones across half a continent, and one small ankle bone that looked just a little too much like ours. And maybe that's the most human thing about it. If you guys enjoyed the video, make sure to like and subscribe. See you in the next one.